This is Lauren Kimball for ANI 150. I just got done recording the tutorial for actually fencing off this mesh and building the high poly, but I realized I forgot a really important step, a step that I'm always encouraging my students to use. So when you're done with the mesh, whether you're about to build another mesh off of it, like how we were going to build this into a high poly, or maybe you have a fully built high poly mesh that you're working on, you always want to go in and double check for any sort of issues or errors that you might not have noticed. What would one of those errors look like? Like maybe you accidentally duplicated an edge on the inside of this. Maybe you accidentally extruded a face and now there's two faces sharing the same area. Sometimes when that happens, you'll see this kind of black and gray artifacting kind of go on. It's hard to describe, but sometimes you notice it and sometimes you don't. So a great tool that you can use is holding down spacebar and going mesh, cleanup, and clicking this box. I'm going to reset my settings and let's talk about this. The cleanup option is awesome for detecting errors. It's not always perfect. It doesn't catch all of them all the time, but it's a really good kind of litmus test to kind of give you a general sense if something's wrong. It's a good way to catch something you might miss. So there are, at the top are the cleanup effects. So on the one hand, you could ask it to clean up something that it finds wrong, or you could just ask it to select. I like to go for select because I don't always like it when Maya decides how to fix something. It doesn't always do the best job. I don't like, for instance, how it fixes n-gons by adding like a billion edges to fix that n-gon instead of just deleting a stray vertice. Scope means, are you going to apply it to a selected object or all objects in scene? Well, all the objects in scene are just the head and the arm. So applying to all polygon objects is fine. All right, so there's two categories underneath. These are things that maybe you want to fix in the tessellation, and these are things that you might want to remove from the geometry entirely. So not all these things are necessarily wrong, first off. Four-sided faces, for example, if you are trying to triangulate a mesh for like a game engine, you may want to avoid four-sided faces, in which case knowing where the four-sided faces is can be helpful. So now we know that the triangles are on the top and the rest are four-sided faces, and if we were going to put this into something that required tries, we would have to definitely fix that. Faces with more than four sides, those are n-gons. Press apply and notice that nothing was selected. That's a great sign. It means there's no n-gons that Maya was able to detect. Concave faces, there are none of those, but you know, a concave face. Faces with holes, again, explanatory. You know, we know what a face with a hole is and there aren't any. Non-planar faces, if we press apply, you'll see them around the edge of the axe. What are those? What is a non-planar face? Well, let's go ahead and create a polygon plane so I can show you. I'm going to go over here and turn off the subdivisions, and I'm going to grab a vertex and just move it down like so. So first off, before I do this, let's just ask Maya, is there any non-planar faces here? And it says no. Okay, cool. But if I grab this vertex here and I push this down and I click off of it, I press apply, now it's like, oh yeah, there's a non-planar face. Non-planar face is a face that has four sides and one side is bending down. It's not really a big deal, but it can be in certain instances. You might not always want that, so it's good to know that what that is and what's happening. So the fact that we have a non-planar face on our axe really doesn't matter. What does matter is making sure that we don't have any n-gons. And we don't. We don't have any n-gons. Everything's fine. All right, let's look down here at removing geometry. Lamina faces are something you don't want. I'm going to press apply. We don't have any. A lamina faces are faces on top of each other. They all share the same edges. Non-manifold geometry. Are there any non-manifold geometry? No, non-manifold geometry. Non-manifold geometry, and as far as I understand it, is essentially geometry like this. So I'm going to take this polygon plane, let's go ahead and take out its subdivisions, and let's ask it to have, actually let's ask it to have just one subdivision, like maybe one division in width. Alright, so what I understand non-manifold geometry to be, and I've never really had an issue with this, but it would be a sense where you maybe, usually when you extrude faces, you go along an edge that that it's like on the edge of a polygon mesh and you're just kind of building up from there. But if you were to go in the middle of a polygon face where there's a face on either side and then extrude, that is not a manifold geometry. That's not clean. That's not really usable. You've got one face that has a normal or, with no face normal on it. It's just going to be transparent on one side. I can't think of a good reason to have this. And probably not something that you want in your mesh. If you have it, it was probably created by accident, like maybe extruding and you turned off keep faces together. I'm going to press apply, and now it says, hey, yeah, you've got some non-manifold geometry issues going on here. And I say, hey, I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and get rid of it. Or not delete it, I'm just going to undo it. Thanks a bunch. You might have edges with zero space. So what is an edge with zero space? Like maybe you created an edge and it doesn't have any length. It's just basically a vert hanging out. A face with zero geometry would be two edges overlapping each other. Faces with zero map area you don't have to really worry about because we're not UV mapping right now. If I press apply, it has neither of these things. If it does have manifold geometry or lamina faces or anything like that, you can ask it to fix it, and that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I don't use the cleanup option when it comes to the fix by tessellation, but it's totally fine to use for remove geometry. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to run the cleanup tool by you, make sure that you knew about it, and it's a great way to kind of just sort of spot check your work.